Thanksgiving is over and the election is over, and yet Vice President-elect J.D. Vance made a Thanksgiving post on social media, which was so strange that it once again opened the conversation that Governor Tim Walz started during the election about how weird J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, and MAGA Republicans really are, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. Folks, I don't know if you saw this. Perhaps some of you are at peace in your own lives and you've made the decision to not be on social media. I applaud you. I wish I had your strength. Unfortunately, I have to share this with you. I really do, because these people are going to run our country for the next 4 years. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. This is the actual J.D. Vance on his official Twitter/X page, and he chose to post this. This is a picture of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance serving an electoral county map. We're going to dive into this, the Mediaite article on the topic. Donald Trump is presented as the doting father in a suit standing behind J.D. Vance, who J.D. Vance has positioned himself as the wife. He is married to Donald Trump in this image. He is a wife to Donald Trump. They are spouses, and they are serving a county-wide electoral map to their guests and their children. Presented without comment. This is real. Now we'll get into, this is a satirical image of a Norman Rockwell painting. We'll get into all of that. But yeah, J.D. Vance shared this, and the internet is on fire about it. So if you look at the quotes and the retweets, I'm going to show you something I said, something Mehdi Hassan said. Why did he depict himself as a trad wife? The trad being a traditional wife. You know, this idea that women are somehow supposed to be, when they're married, at home as the caretakers, as, raising children. That's their responsibility in life, whereas the father is supposed to go out in the professional workforce and provide financially. That's the notion of the quote-unquote trad wife. And hey, listen, if you choose to be a trad wife, no harm, no foul, perfectly fair, perfectly honest lifestyle. Of course, the problem with so much of this conservative notions that they try to enforce that on others, people who want to live a different lifestyle. I digress. But they're like, why did J.D. Vance position himself as a trad wife? People reacting with pause. Look, nothing any of us can say is going to beat the fact that he posted this himself. How low is my self-esteem that I'm the sidekick in my own fantasy? This is, of course, a Scrubs picture here. Kyle Kalinske of Secular Talk, who I will be interviewing on Monday, says this is gayer than blowing a dude. My response was, I wonder if he knows he's implying he's fucking Trump in this image that he shared himself. And the reason, of course, that I'm drawing attention to this is because J.D. Vance is socially conservative. J.D. Vance spent much of the election mocking people who have non-traditionally conservative lifestyles, people who choose not to have children, people who can't biologically have children. The LGBTQ community, he made comments about Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, who is a happily married gay man with 2 kids. He's cast aspersions about Vice President Kamala Harris, who is married with stepchildren but no biological children of her own. And yet here he is voluntarily seemingly undermining that notion by positioning himself as a straight, man married with children as the wife to another straight man who is married with children. Of course, Trump is a notorious philanderer and cheated on all his spouses. Mehdi Hassan points out J.D. Vance posting an image of himself as Trump's wife and also with a map that doesn't show people he and Trump won by one of the lowest margins in American history. So again, if you look at it, people are mocking this person. Vance, Adam Kinzinger, Vance depicting himself as the wife is the most beta MAGA thing ever and perfect. Ha 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 times infinity. And again, the point is that this undermines everything that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and their MAGA movement claim to stand for. That's what makes this so strange. And he chose to do it himself. Why? As I pointed out, in response to Mehdi, even after the election, Vance seeks creative ways to keep proving Tim Walz right. They're fucking weird. And they are. So Mediaite's done an article about this. Ex-Twitter users were stunned by Vice President J.D. Vance's Thanksgiving post, a parody of Norman Rockwell's Free From Want, depicting Donald Trump as the husband, Vance as the wife, and a county-level electoral map as the turkey. Former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin set the standard for Thanksgiving mayhem many years ago, but this year the vice president-elect metaphorically told her to hold my beer. In a Thanksgiving twist that set social media ablaze, Trump and Vance are depicted in a parody image that reimagines Rockwell's iconic Freedom from Want painting. The satirical artwork, shared just as families were sitting down to their Thanksgiving meals, shows Trump as the dad at the head of the table, standing behind Vance as what one user called a trad wife. Instead of the traditional Thanksgiving turkey, the centerpiece is a detailed map of the U.S., showcasing county-level election results from the 2024 election, where Trump clinched victory. This provocative image, and provocative is being very generous here, it's weird because, again, it totally undermines the very sort of social conservatism that these people claim to stand for. And again, it suggests a strange, subordinate situation for J.D. Vance himself. Under their paradigm, under the trad wife, the traditional conservative notions of family, you know, a trad wife is supposed to defer to her husband. Why would J.D. Vance proactively position himself in a satirical image? Like, that's just strange, right? Because the other pillar of MAGA social conservatism is this idea that men are supposed to be tough and alpha and dominating, and they take no prisoners and they put up with no nonsense. You see the contradictions here? Elon Musk responds with a laughing emoji. Again, we've been through some of these. I've seen a lot of embarrassing behavior on this app, but I've never seen anything quite like this, said Franklin Leonard. OMG, I love that J.D. Vance posted this. Some men are born with an almost fetishistic need to be ruled, and this weirdo is high key instead of low key. High key, one of them. This is objectively the most hilarious VP we've ever had, LMFAO. I would probably agree, but not for the reasons that many on MAGA's side of the aisle would like to suggest. I think in much the way that Trump himself is hilarious, a lot of people laugh at him as opposed to with him. It's the same thing here with J.D. Vance. I checked in this one, and it's real. Trump's VP-elect is undeniably a weird-ass bitch. Mehdi Hassan, of course. Done campaigning and yet so unbelievably weird. Nice dress, JD. JD makes me appreciate that I grew up with a father in the house instead of a council of chain-smoking grandmas who made me do fashion shows in the living room. Thanksgiving never felt so good. I mean, some of these are obviously in support of J.D. Vance, but it's so strange. Aren't these the same people who say children should be allowed to see drag performances? Again, another irony to this very strange post. So the reason that I'm sharing this with you is because, number one, it just reaffirms that Governor Walz had it right. J.D. Vance is weird. Donald Trump is weird. MAGA Republicans at the highest cultish level are weird. But they're going to be running the country for the next 4 years. And what it suggests is that it really is going to be a cult of personality around Trump. I mean, J.D. Vance kind of gave the game away multiple times throughout the election when asked, okay, well, if you were in Mike Pence's position on January 6, 2021, if you'd been the incumbent vice president at the time, would you have succumbed to Donald Trump's request to overthrow the results of a free and fair election? Or would you have done what Mike Pence did and stand on principle, stand on the Constitution, and say, no, we lost. We're not just going to fudge the numbers or, try to exploit loopholes, which is being overly generous when, in fact, the Electoral Count Act and others do not permit the vice president to unilaterally change the results of elections. I digress. And would you stand strong on the Constitution? And J.D. Vance said, no, I would not have certified the 2020 election results. So given that the vice president has very few on-paper constitutional duties, and the one that he has is to certify the results of free and fair elections, it was a total abdication of duty. What it suggests is that J.D. Vance is going to subordinate himself to Trump, and that if Trump and the Constitution or Trump and the country are ever in conflict, he will always choose Trump. And in a roundabout way, I would argue this particular image just reaffirms that notion, because J.D. Vance is debasing and humiliating himself proactively in a way that totally conflicts with his claims of social conservatism. And again, the irony of this cannot be overstated. But they're going to run the country for the next 4 years. And this suggests in its own way that we're in for a rough 4 years. Food for thought. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.